All right, let me ask you something. If caffeine makes you focused, why do so many high achievers feel wired but distracted, motivated but scattered, awake but not productive? You drink coffee to get more done, right? But instead, your brain feels fuzzy, your chest feels tight, you check your phone 47 freaking times, you start 6 tasks, and you finish none of them. And by 3 p.m., you crash super hard. Today, we're going to break down why caffeine can increase anxiety, how it quietly destroys deep focus, why high performers are especially vulnerable, and how to use it intelligently instead of letting it use you. This isn't anti caffeine, by the way, it's anti misuse. Let's get into it. All right. So, first, caffeine doesn't give you energy. It blocks adenosine. And I think that's how it's pronounced because I am an English as a second language person. So, it's either adenosine or adenosine. Not sure. I'm going to go with adenosine for now. Adenosine builds up throughout the day and makes you sleepy. Caffeine blocks that signal. So you don't feel tired. But here's the catch. Your body's still fatigued. You're overriding the signal. Now layer in what the other things that caffeine does, such as it increases your adrenaline, it elevates your cortisol, it raises your heart rate, and increases your dopamine temporarily. That locked in feeling, it's controlled stress. You're stimulating your sympathetic nervous system, which is fine in small intentional doses, but most people, they live there. And chronic sympathetic activation equals anxiety. So why it's making you anxious? Anxiety isn't always emotional. Sometimes it's physiological. Caffeine increases norepinephrine. I hope I got that one right. Epinephrine, and of course, cortisol, which we've talked about. So your brain reads that as something important's happening, even if you just, I don't know, answering emails or phone calls or texts. So now combine that with some poor sleep, high expectations because you're an overachiever. That's why you're on this channel. Social media dopamine spikes from scrolling, work pressure, because I mean, we all work and we have pressure at work usually. They're eating, which is very common if you're a competitor or a high performer, right? Because you're probably on a diet, you're trying to be athletic, compete, that kind of thing. So you're stacking stress on stress is the point. Caffeine becomes gasoline on an already lit fire. You don't feel focused, you feel urgent. And urgency is not productivity. It's panic with a planner, basically. So let's talk about the productivity lies. And we kind of landed there. So here's the uncomfortable truth. Caffeine increases task initiation. It does not guarantee or help you guarantee task completion. So you feel like doing something. So you'll open some new tabs, you'll start a new project, you're going to text somebody, you're going to jump between ideas, you're going to chase stimulation. That's part of what it does. So shallow work thrives on caffeine. Deep work, however, suffers because it requires far more concentration than what caffeine is kind of designed to give you. So because deep work requires a calm nervous system, so you can have that endurance, sustained attention, and low emotional volatility, so you can keep the course, get the work done. So if your heart rate is elevated and your mind is racing, you're not going to be good at deep focus because you're in stimulated scanning mode. You're doing the superficial stuff first, right? Which is awesome. If you're doing, say, sales, social engagement, you need a performance burst, a short performance burst. Sure, absolutely. A training session. Absolutely. Would you need that tight focused, time window constrained, if you will, effort? That's awesome. But it's terrible if what you're doing is say writing or strategic thinking or creative problem solving, things that require a lot more deep thought and focus and perhaps a longer sustained effort. So now let's talk about why high performers are most vulnerable to misusing caffeine. If you're driven, competitive, and entrepreneurial, you're especially prone to caffeine abuse because you like intensity. That's why you are like you are. You associate stimulation with output. You hate feeling slow because you're again, a high performer, and you push through fatigue. You're used to discipline, to will yourself through different stages, and fatigue can be felt as an obstacle for you to achieve an objective. So you're going to try and push through it. But the problem with chronic caffeine use is that it causes receptor downregulation, a blunted dopamine response, elevated baseline cortisol, and reduced sleep quality, even if you fall asleep fine. You're just not going to sleep as well or as deeply or as productively, I guess, efficiently, if you will. Now you just need caffeine just to feel normal, right? At this point, and that's dependency. And dependency feels like I can't function without it. How many of us wake up and go like, I can't start my day without a cup of coffee? That's not performance optimization. That's nervous system debt. That is an actual real problem. So now, what are some signs that caffeine is working against you? You may be wondering, like, so is it working against me, or do I have a good balance here? Like, what's going on? Here's how you know if it's hurting you. You feel jittery, but not clear in your head. You're productive for, say, 45 minutes or so, and then you scatter, right? You have a 2 to 3 p.m. crash. That one is a huge red flag of caffeine misuse. Your sleep latency increases. The time it takes you to actually fall asleep when you try to go to bed. You wake up tired even after your 7 or 8 hours of sleep. You feel, this one's classic, they're wired but tired. Like, I'm wired, I can fall asleep, but I feel exhausted. You're more irritable. That's another one. A bonus sign, by the way, you drink coffee to calm down. That's when you know your nervous system is completely confused, because there's no real calming down when you're consuming caffeine. That's not going to calm you down, okay? That's a sign of addictive behavior or an addictive tendency. So now let's talk about how to use caffeine correctly, because one of the things about this podcast is we identify issues, but we try to provide you actionable ways to work around the issues and solve them so you can improve your quality of life. So let's talk about this. We're not going to eliminate caffeine, okay? We're going to weaponize it. I love using that word, weaponizing, and making it more efficient. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to delay caffeine approximately 60 to 90 minutes after waking. We're not going to jump out of bed and go straight to that coffee pot, okay? Cortisol naturally spikes in the morning. If you stack caffeine immediately, you're going to amplify stress. So wait, okay? Let your natural alertness rise first. Give yourself, those 60, 90 minutes if you can, okay? That's going to be like a first, and you'll realize very quickly that you really didn't need that jolt of caffeine first thing if you let your body do its thing. Second thing you can do, cap your total daily intake. This was a tough one for those of us. I actually enjoy the flavor of coffee, more than, say, water or tea or whatever. So that can be a problem, but you got to do what you got to do. So for most people, 200 to 300 milligrams maximum caffeine, that's the top. That's the most you can get before you start getting some negative effects. If you're an anxious person, though, it can be as low as 150 or 200. That might be your sweet spot. You don't need as much because you're already amped up. And don't spread it all day. That's the other thing, front load it. Just no caffeine, and try for sure. No caffeine at least 8 hours before bed minimum. Okay, just because of the half-life of caffeine, and you definitely don't want it to affect your sleep quality, because once caffeine affects your sleep quality, then you don't get sleep, then you don't get rest, then you don't recover, and this will affect you mentally and physically greatly. Your ability to recover from, say, a good workout is going to be compromised if you're not sleeping. And if you do that over time and stack that effect over time, all of that work you're putting in at the gym, say, or with your diet, all of those things they're going to suffer. They're not going to be as effective, and it's going to get worse and worse the more you allow it to stack. So again, try to avoid caffeine at least 8 hours before bed. That's a general rule. That's minimum general rule. Number 3, cycle it. So every 4 to 8 weeks or so, take 5 days to a week off. Yes, you're going to feel slower. I get it. It's going to probably suck the first couple of days, but that's the point, because you're restoring your receptor sensitivity. So that when you go back to drinking coffee, you kind of start the cycle at a lower point, a healthier point. It doesn't affect you as much. Okay. Again, you're trying to restore that receptor sensitivity. Okay. Number 4. Try and pair your coffee with calm inputs. So instead of stacking caffeine with your chaos and social media and scrolling through and the news and all this high stim, high stress stuff, pair it with, say, a focused work block where you need to focus on something, a clear objective of some sort. I don't care what it is, but one clear objective or activity, say a timer. You can actually enjoy your coffee in peace, meditate. That's pretty cool. A structured output goal of some sort, I guess is what I'm getting at. That way you can use that stimulation with intention, and it actually will be helpful and beneficial for you. And the other last one, and we alluded to it before, but it's clear, fix your sleep first, okay? If you need caffeine to survive the day, the problem is sleep. It's not stimulation, more likely than not. And no supplement overrides chronic sleep debt. Do you remember what we talked about just a moment ago? The more you affect your sleep, the more your ability to recover from everything in life, physical and mental, is affected. Your hormones will be affected. Your recovery will be affected. Your metabolism will be affected. Your ability to think will be affected. All of those things are part of sleep, proper sleep and recovery. So it's critical that you fix your sleep first if you're going to be consuming caffeine. All right. The final fix, the real message here. Okay, most people don't need more caffeine. Point blank. What they need is better sleep, lower baseline stress, a smarter work structure, more sunlight. I'm a huge believer in this. Sunlight is critical. If you can get it every day, at least 20, 30 minutes if you can, please go outside, walk, do whatever you need to do, but get your sunlight. Better blood sugar control. That's another huge factor because that will affect your energy levels if you feel drained or tired and all that. And you need fewer dopamine hits because, again, the way caffeine interacts with your brain and with the dopamine receptors and so forth, it's going to affect you, okay? Caffeine should amplify your capacity. It should not compensate for dysfunction. If you feel anxious and unproductive, before you add another cup, ask yourself, am I tired or am I dysregulated? And there's a difference. Okay. High performance is not about how stimulated you feel. It's about how regulated you are. So control your nervous system and productivity becomes effortless. All right. So I hope that gave you something to ponder, to think about, maybe some strategies to how to optimize your consumption of caffeine and coffee. Like I said, I love coffee. Coffee is amazing. It's a wonderful part of my day. I look forward to it absolutely when I wake up after doing my morning fasted cardio and so forth. I love a quiet seeing the sunrise with a cup of coffee. I get it. But again, make sure that you understand what you're doing with caffeine, respect it for what it can do, weaponize it when you can to your advantage, but don't allow it to take over and make you less of a performer than you already are. Use it to your advantage, not to your detriment. So hopefully hit like, subscribe, comment, tell me if I'm right, I'm wrong, I'm full of it. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. You tell me. But in any case, I hope that was helpful and somewhat entertaining. And yeah, let's see. Join me for a cup of coffee or grab a cup of coffee and watch some more of our videos here on this channel. And with that, I'm Gonzo from Rice 41. Thank you for your time and attention, and I am out. Have a wonderful day.